Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, here in the Midlothian region of southeast Scotland. And we all know what Scotland is. Scotland is just, the centre of everything, literally. So, especially sticks of rock, apparently. Anyway, I hope everybody has had a good weekend so far and a great week. I know it is Memorial Weekend this weekend, so I'm sure that we will have a smaller than normal number of people here, and that's fine. Even if we have to have a shorter show because of that, that's okay too. Because this is a very, very important weekend in the United States calendar, and I am well aware of that. I would argue this is more important than Super Bowl weekend, for sure. I think this is way more important, but yes, Super Bowl weekend is an important event, but this one is, I think, the most important, and it's the weekend that we should all do well to pay attention to, remembering those who have given their lives and their limbs and their mental health for the sake of our freedom and freedom from tyranny and all of that stuff. So I think it's very important that we pay attention to it and we take some time to reflect upon that sacrifice so that we could have freedoms to do these kind of things like this show, like so many other things that we enjoy that those guys never got to enjoy. So, yeah, I wanted to start with that particular note because it's important to me. Because my grandfather, although British and served with the British Army, he was wounded in combat in 1942 and in North Africa. And he had managed to basically rescue his platoon when they were under mortar fire. And he was very badly wounded. He had his right foot blown off, which was not so great for him because he played football for Liverpool Football Club. And pretty much he was not now going to be able to go back and do that after the war was over. So, however, he was left pretty much on his own after he'd rescued his platoon, and he was picked up about 2 days later by an American platoon, and they got him back to safety. And so he particularly holds American servicemen in very high regard, or at least he did before he died. And so he passed that on to me. And so, I do likewise hold American service personnel in very high regard. So for that reason, that's why I'm starting with this particular message. So yeah, I think it's very important. So I wanted to start with that tonight. So now, with all of that said, we got 14 people here, but we've only got 6 likes. So if you like what I do and you like this show in general, please do hit the like button. It helps me a lot. And if you are watching but you're not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button as well. That way you can join in the conversation in the chat, which is in subscriber mode only. And I set that up a long time ago because I had some weirdos who like to come in and basically interrupt and disturb this show by posting all sorts of inappropriate things. So that's why it is in subscriber mode only. So if you want to take part, if you want to ask a question about Studio One, and if you want to talk about a problem that maybe you're having, or there's a feature that you are unaware of or don't know how it works and you'd like to know, then please do subscribe. That way you can get involved in the chat and you can say hello and you can ask your questions as well. If you want to ask a question, please start it with @JonnyLipshamStudios. If you do that, then that basically highlights for me my name in red. It doesn't do that for you, but it does for me. And that basically means that I can separate out from just the general conversation that is taking place. I can separate your questions, and it means I don't miss them. Or at least I'm less likely to miss them, I should say. is probably a better way of putting it. So, who was first in the door? It was Billy Morgan. He was first in the door. He was like 6 hours early, which is insane, but I think pretty much as soon as I set up this show this afternoon, he was just like, oh, I'm going to go and get first in. Ron Figueroa is here as well. Tony Cordona is here. Chris Rachner says it's race day in Indianapolis. Awesome. And he has some very nice things to say, which I'm going to get to in just a wee minute. And we got Stephen Wilson here. John Hathaway is here. He's down in England. We got Danny Taylor here. We've got Bobby Booth. We've got Rich Cresswell, also down in England. We got Simon Carpenter here as well. We got Keith over in Canada. And we got Don Oliver. We got Paul Morgan, and who is no relation to Billy. And we got Just Bob as well. And we got... That's it. Yeah, that's it so far. We got 17 people and 10 likes. Awesome. So people are actually starting to come in, which is cool. All right, so I'm going to get to Chris's very nice words that he's had to say here. He has also asked a question which he sent to me by email. So that is another way you can ask a question as well. If you know that your question is going to take up more than the character limit in chat, then certainly do email it to me. How do you do that? Simple. See at the bottom of the screen there, there is a link. Well, it's not really a link, but there's my web address. So if you go to johnnylipshamstudios.co.uk, there's at the top of the screen on the right-hand side, it says contact us. You click on that, it'll take you down to the contact form, fill that out, ask your question, hit send, done. And I will get that, and I will be able to answer that question. Or if it's a particular subject you have in mind for a show, something that you want me to showcase, then again, do that via email. I'd be happy to showcase that as well, and maybe if necessary, make a standalone video. So we'll get to Chris's question as well in a second. But first of all, in the chat, he has said, I have my new Quantum HD8 all hooked up. Now, I know most of you, he says, now I know most of you know I'm kind of a gearhead, but this thing just blows me away. I was wanting it to be as good as my older interface, and it has shown an extreme improvement. Thank you, Presonus. Thank you, Chris, for the very, very cool little review there that you've done of the HD8. I hope you are enjoying it. It is an awesome, awesome unit. I don't have one. I would very much like to get my hands on one. I am due some new gear anyway, because I have a lot of beta gear in the studio that's actually a little out of date now. So it'd be nice if I could get my hands on some replacements. To get the studio kind of brought up a wee bit more up to date. That would be awesome. So hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on a HD8 and be able to see what it's like for myself, because I've not really had a chance to test it or anything else. So it'd be nice if I could get my hands on one. Let's see. Billy Morgan says, first thing I did when coming in from church, check for Sunday Night Live link. There you go. That's Billy's method. Get it from church and check to see if there's a link. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we got a couple of questions now. And Just Bob spelled my name wrong, which is why it didn't highlight red for me. But I did manage to spy his question. So I'm going to get to Bob's question in just a second, but first I want to get to the emailed question. And this is from Chris Rachner, who says, we have all moved files and folders around. Sometimes it works, and sometimes not so much. What is the prescribed method, and how do you correct the mess once you have made it? Should everything be on the C drive? Okay, this is a really good question. Really good question. And it is a subject that I think I have talked about before, but it is definitely worth talking about regularly, because file management is one of those things that if you kind of get it wrong, it can take some clearing up. I will give you an example. one of our customers, who, by the way, is a very, very cool person. I remoted into their computer maybe about 6 months to a year ago. And they were very, very cool, very, very nice person. And basically what he was reporting was whenever he opened a song that he was working on to mix for his clients, he was getting a missing files error message with like as many as 300 or 400 files missing from the song. And so I gave him an answer to this, which basically goes something like this. You need to search your system for those missing files. When that dialog box opens up, it actually gives you an option at the bottom of that dialog box to be able to search your system for those files. And then usually what happens is they all tend to end up in one place. That being the case, as soon as you've found one of them, then Studio One goes, aha, I can now see all of the rest of them. And now the song populates with all the missing data, all the missing audio files and everything else. And now the song behaves itself. And that's usually the quickest and easiest way to resolve the problem. However, there is a common misconception, especially if you are a mixing engineer and you are receiving audio, you're receiving a song from a client to mix. And maybe they do use Studio One, maybe they don't. But in either case, what they tend to do is they tend to just zip up just the song file, just the .song file, and they send that. If you do that, if you are sending something to somebody else to mix, maybe you are sending a song and you want Bobby Booth to mix your song, or you want Kyle Drzuziak to mix your song. Don't just send them the .song file. If you send them that, they'll get the song, but they won't get anything else. They'll get no waveforms, they'll get no audio, and they will get the missing files error. Because here's the thing, here's what Studio One does, and every other DAW does this. There's no DAW that does not do this. What it does is to make things small and contained and make the song work as fast and as streamlined as possible. The song references other folders. So in the case of Studio One, the audio files are stored in a folder called the media folder. And then the waveforms that you see drawn in the events, those are stored inside another folder called images. And you have these folders all packaged together inside a folder that is the title of your song. So when you create a new song and you give it a title, whatever that title might be, then those folders are the reference material for the song in order for it to work. So if you are going to send Bobby Booth or Kyle Drzuziak or some other mixing engineer your song, you need to send them the whole folder that contains all of these other folders. Otherwise, the song is not going to work. Similarly, if you get all of this content, now here's what this customer was doing. What this customer was doing was this. He was receiving the folders correctly from his clients, but then what he was doing was he was taking everything apart and making his own bespoke little filing system. So he had a folder for media, but it was for the media of every song he had ever worked on. And then he had another folder for, for other stuff. But they were all separated out. But here's the thing. All the songs were all mixed up together. So he had media files, so basically the audio events for loads of these songs in this media folder. There were hundreds, thousands of these audio events in this media folder. And I said to the guy, I said, do you get the same error if you open up other songs? He goes, yes, I do. And yes, there are hundreds of missing files. And so I said to him, I know what you've done. You've taken all the folders and all of the data from those folders and put them into other folders. And now Studio One cannot find them because it's expecting to see everything inside the song folder. That's how Studio One works. This is also how Cubase and Pro Tools and other DAWs work. They work in exactly the same way. They have their own like different nomenclature for how this works, but it is essentially the same thing. Basically, you have a song folder and you have a media folder, you have image folders, you have other data folders. And the DAW, be that Studio One or Pro Tools or Cubase or Nuendo or whatever DAW it is, will reference those folders. And it basically extracts that information into the song. So that means your audio events, they're not actually inside the song when you load the song up into Studio One. What you see on the page is not actually in the page. It is being referenced from these other folders. So never, this is what I'm saying, never separate the media folder from the song folder or the contents of the media folder from the media folder inside the song folder. Don't separate them out. If you do, you will end up in one hell of a mess, because now what that customer has to do is he has to locate all of these individual audio files and put them back in the media folder for the correct songs. Now, he's done this for several songs over the last couple of years, and he's never been able to explain why each song he gets has this missing files error when he opens the song after he's done the mix. That's why, because he was going, oh great, I've finished my mix, now I can just like put all of these over here. No, you have now broken the song. So you're in one heck of a mess. So it's going to take him a long time. I rather suspect 6 months later, he is still doing it. He is still putting all of these songs back together because it's like 2 years worth of work. So basically, that's the big secret. If you're going to send, a song to somebody else to mix, zip up the whole song folder. Zip up or compress, if you're on a Mac, the whole song folder and send that. So if you're using Studio One Plus workspaces, this is very, very easy. In fact, you don't even need to do that. You can just share the song. But if you're not, and you're sending via WeTransfer or Dropbox or some other way of sending large files, then that's what you got to do. Otherwise, the recipient will not have anything to work with, and they might get really rather mad at you, and you might look a little bit like an idiot, and you don't want that. So zip up, send the correct, send the zipped up folder, the song folder. So going back to Chris's question is, what is the correct way to move things around? Let's say you decide, hey, you know what? I don't want all of my songs on my C drive. I want them on my D drive. You can do that. And there's a very easy way to do it. Rather than doing one song folder at a time and moving that one song folder individually one at a time over to your D drive, don't do that. Each individual song folder is inside a songs folder. Okay, so it might be in Documents, Studio One songs, or something like that. Wherever you have it on your C drive, that's where it'll be, and it'll be songs. Okay, and then so what you want to do is you want to move that whole folder to your new location. So on your D drive, make a new folder, call that songs. take that folder, that songs folder from your C drive, copy, paste it, or move it into the D drive, into that songs folder on your D drive. Then in Studio One, go to Studio One, options on a PC, preferences on a Mac, locations, user data, change the user data path to your new location. So if that's D:songs, that's what it needs to be. Okay? And then when you do that, every new song will be written to that folder. Okay? And every old song will be there. Okay? Now, you might find that all of those links that are in the recent files list on the start page will no longer work. Of course they won't. They are now old links, because basically the recent files list is just a handy, convenient list of links. That's all it is. It's just hyperlinks. You know, when you're on the internet and you're on a website and there's like hyperlinks to different parts of the web page. That's all they are. They're just hyperlinks. And they just open up that song. So those won't work anymore. So what you can do is you can clear your recent files list. That does not mean you've cleared your songs or deleted your songs. You haven't. You've just cleared the links to the recent locations. And then instead of using the recents tab on the start page, use the songs tab on the start page. Start opening up those most recently used songs and then hit save. So open up the song, do something in the song, hit save. Then it will repopulate a new link in the recent files list. And before you know it, you'll have a good, big, long list of recent files of whatever you've most recently worked on. Okay? So that kind of in a nutshell answers Chris's question. I've kind of talked about how you need to tidy things up if you have messed it up. I can't go into a lot of detail because there could be a billion different scenarios of how you could possibly have messed it up. The most extreme is the one I told you about the customer who basically had decided to create his own little filing system. Studio One's not going to work like that because it has its own filing system. You have to follow that filing system, even if you don't like it, even if you don't think it's very good, even if you don't think it's very efficient. Use the filing system that Studio One has already got baked into it, because that's the one that it uses, and that's the one that works. You can't force it to use another filing system that's unique to you. It won't work like that. Okay, so I hope that kind of helps, Chris. It's a great question. So thank you very much for that question. There was another one that I wanted to get to. Bob's question. Yeah, because he misspelled my name. That's okay. I don't mind that. Typo. He says, the tricomp, assuming it means 3 in 1, I was messing with it the other day and found it can easily mess up your mix. How is this supposed to be used effectively? Tricomp is a multiband compressor. Essentially. That's what it is. It's essentially a multiband compressor. It's just 3 bands. That's kind of what it does. And yes, you're absolutely right. It can absolutely bugger up your mix if you are not paying attention to what's going on. It is a very cool plugin. It's a plugin that, I'll be honest, I don't really use enough. So let's take a quick look at this guy. So let me go screen. There we go. Put me on at the top there. All right, so this is Tricomp, and it's actually easier than you think. You will see that you have an input gain and a mix knob. You also see that you have low, high, low frequency, high frequency. These are your bands. Then you've got your compress knob, and you've got your attack. Your release, because it's kind of a fixed attack, fast, normal, or slow. So you got 3 attack types there. Then you got your knee, and then your makeup gain. And then you can dial in some saturation using the state space modeling saturation. There's also some presets here as well that will get you started. Some vocal ones. some miscellaneous ones, and then some acoustic guitar fingerstyle, strumming, B3, electric lead, piano strings. Then you got some drums, snare drum, drums overheads, all that kind of stuff there. But yes, this is essentially what it is. It's a 3-band compressor, so you can set the low frequency and the high frequency bands, and then you can dial in compression for each one of these. To really get into the details of this, the online Studio One manual or the user manual in Studio One, if seeing as we're here, we may as well just open up the reference manual, because the reference manual is actually very, very cool. And it has this nice little section here going on. So if you go into Dynamics here, you will see you have the compressor, you have the de-esser, you have the expander, you have the gate, limiter. Where's the tricomp? That should be there as well. That's frustrating. Where's tricomp? Why is tricomp not listed in here when it's a flipping Dynamics plugin? Okay, that is strange. That should be here. I was expecting it to be here, and it's not. Let's see if we can find it somewhere else. It's got to be in here somewhere, surely. Maybe it's in distortion. I'm be amazed if it's in here. If it is, it's in the wrong place, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm curious why it's not here. That channel. Splitter. Modulation. Yeah, I'm very curious as to why there is nothing in here on the tricomp. That's bizarre. I find that very strange. Is it under this? No, we looked in distortion, didn't we? And it's not here. No, tricomp has been missed out from the built-in effects, which I find very strange indeed. Because I would have thought it would be here under Dynamics, but essentially that's what it is. It's a 3-band. It's a 3-band compressor. So I don't know why it's not in here. That's absolutely bonkers. Yeah, tricomp has been missed out entirely from the user manual, which means it won't even be in the online one either. I don't think it's going to be in here. Let's actually do a search here, because we might find it by doing a search for it. Oh, look at this. There it is. It's it's in the mastering section, but would we have realized this? No. Anyway, here it is. We've found it. Strange that it's only in the mastering, it's not on its own. I find that very strange. But anyway, I did not write the user manual. I have nothing to do with the development of the user manuals. So, it's a 3-band compressor, provides automatic threshold and ratio settings for all 3 bands and relative control for the low and high bands, as well as switchable automatic attack and release controls. Tricomp can be used to finalize your mix or add brilliance or punch to frequency-rich signals. So the low adjusts the relative amount of compression to be applied to the low compression band. High adjusts the relative amount of compression to the high band. Low frequency adjusts the upper corner frequency of the low compression band. And the high adjusts the lower corner frequency of the high compression band. Okay. Yeah, this is a plugin that I don't really use, which is why I'm finding this very useful to read. Then you got saturation via state space modeling. And of course, you can sidechain it as well. Compression amount. the relative amount of compression to be applied to all 3 compression bands, variable from 0 to 10, which is this guy here. All right, so that's the tricomp. Yes. Strange that it was that we found it in the mastering section. So, what do we learn here? We learned here that when we are looking for something in the user manual and we didn't specifically find it where we expected to find it, use the search box. And when we typed in tricomp into the search box, we found where it is. It's in the mastering section, which is a little curious to say the least, but that's okay. We'll live with it. But yes, Just Bob, that's basically what the tricomp is. It's basically, it's like the multiband dynamics plugin, but it's 3 bands and it behaves a little bit differently. And it's got some state space modeling saturation built into it. John Hathwaite says, I have a load of backing tracks created at different times on different doors over 3 albums. I need to get these set at the same level for inclusion in the show. I'm assuming the project page is the place to be, but what's the best workflow? Now, if you are wanting your backing tracks obviously to be rendered down to a stereo file, yeah, I would say that the the project page, the project page is your best bet. Take all of those songs and render a stereo mix. Bring that into the project page, and then in the project page you can adjust the gain envelopes of each one of your songs, and then you can eyeball them, and then you can also apply, a little bit of compression, a little bit of limiting to make sure that each of those songs is at the same level, and make sure that the balances of each of the instruments in your backing tracks is good first before you do that, so you don't have to keep flip-flopping between door A and the project page and door B and the project page and door C, or whatever it might well be. So yeah, project page is going to be your best friend there, so that you can line them up. Although you don't have to do it that way, you can just bring the stereo files of each one of those songs into the song page and put them all onto different tracks in the song page. The thing with that is, if you want to render each one out, you're going to have to mute all the others and do a mix down or basically mute all the other tracks and then send the song to the project page. And you'll be doing that repeatedly, which won't work because you can only have one song tied or linked to a song in the project page. Okay, so you can't link that one song 50 times or whatever. So project page is going to be your best friend. Do mix downs in the respective DAWs that you've done those songs in, and put them into the project page, and then you should be good to go. And basically what you want to do is just adjust the gain on each of the songs. Basically, I would say park your cursor at the loudest point of each one of your songs in the project page once you've got them in there, and then try and set the gain of each of the songs by using the metering and using your ears as well, to get the correct LUFS for the loudest part of each of those songs. And then once they're kind of at the same level, then you're good to go. And you can send each one of those into the you can basically do you could do a digital release if you want to, and then you can kind of put each one of those mastered backing tracks into your show. That would definitely be the way I would approach it. Whether that's the correct way to approach it, that's another question, but that's kind of the way I would do it. Tony says, if you send someone files, should you also render to audio? I'm assuming this will keep the third-party plugins intact. This is correct. If you have third-party plugins and you are wanting to bake those into the audio tracks so that they are part of that track's sound, then yes, you will want to do transform to rendered audio, which will render the inserts. of that track. So yes, that's what you'll want to do. Also, if you know that the person you're going to be sending the song to doesn't have those third-party plugins that you've used, but you want them to be part of the sound, then yes, you want to do transform to rendered audio. Yes. Should you render to audio when sending someone a file in order to keep third-party plugins viable? Yes. And if they are MIDI, like, for example, let's say your song is using EasyDrummer and you're sending your song to be mixed by somebody else and they don't have EasyDrummer, then make sure all of those EasyDrummer tracks are transformed to rendered audio. And then off the song goes. And EasyDrummer will never load for them on, when they open the song up. But they'll have the audio events there. So yes, is the answer to that question. Dwayne says, consider the batch file workflow. Yes, the audio batch converter is another good option as well, for sure. Audio batch converter is pretty powerful for a bunch of tasks, and that is definitely one of them. Where you could load those songs into the audio batch converter, and then you can get them all to the same volume level as well. You can do it in the audio batch converter, and then you can bring those finished files into the show page. Chris from Raxa says, difference between render or mixdown. When you are rendering a single track, you are basically baking in whatever is on that track into the audio file. Okay, so let's say you're using some SSL plugins in a particular chain on a vocal track. And you know that and they are kind of part of the production sound of the vocal. And you want to preserve that, but you want to send the song to a mixing engineer to basically do the mix. So what you will do is you will right-click that track and do transform to rendered audio, and it will render all of those plugins onto the audio, and then it will unload those plugins from the inserts bay of the mixer channel. And so what that does is that bakes in all of that into that single audio track. Okay? Mixdown is a different thing. Now, there are two things you can do in Studio One with mixdown. One is you can range select and do mixdown selection, and that basically will just mix down through the stereo output those selected events through the main output, basically. Or you can export the mixdown of your song to basically a stereo file, and you do that through the song export mixdown dialog. So they're kind of two different processes. They may, in some respects, do a similar thing, but for the most part, it won't. It's a different thing for different purposes. John Hathwaite says, difference between bounce and transform to audio. Bouncing and transforming are pretty much similar processes. Okay. However, if you right click or if you select an event and press Control B or Command B, that will bounce that thing to audio. Okay. And it will bounce whatever is on there. So if you've made a bunch of crossfades, or you've done some automation, and you want to basically bake that automation into that event so that the faders are not moving anymore, you're happy with the automation, you don't necessarily want the faders to move anymore, but you're happy with how it sounds, then you can do Command B, Control B, and that will basically print all of that, the automation and everything on that track, into the audio file. And that's what bouncing does. Okay. Bouncing also will render crossfades as well. So if you've done a bunch of crossfades, or let's say you've got on your vocal track, you've got maybe 20 or 30 tiny little audio clips. But you want to consolidate all of that into one single audio event because we're sending stems out to somebody, or you're sending just a single vocal stem to somebody. Let's say you're a session vocalist and you're doing online session vocals, and they've given you a backing track and a set of lyrics, and they said, right, this is how we want the song to go. Just sing that, send that to us, and then we can bring that into our mix and we can mix the song. But you've done like little tiny snippet audio clips on your track. You don't want to send them all the tiny little snippets. You want to send them one audio file that runs from beginning to end of the song. So what you can do is highlight all of the events on your vocal track, and then press Command or Control B, and it will bounce it all into one contiguous event, and then you can send that. And it's far easier for somebody in their DAW to then to then basically bring that into their song and have it line up and have everything where it should be. So yes, that would be my opinion there. And John also says, also needs bounce for ARA plugins, Melodyne or Vocaline. Sort of. Actually, if you're using Melodyne, when you do Command or Control M to edit with Melodyne, or you can just, these days, you don't even have to do that. You can just drag from the event effects folder and drop Melodyne straight onto the track. You don't even have to do Command M anymore. But if you want to do it that way, you can. Now, when you do that and you make your Melodyne edits, and once you're happy with it, yes, you can press Command B. Not the most elegant way to do it, however. If you open the inspector with that particular track, that particular event highlighted, what you'll find is in the event effects section, you will see that there is an insert there for Melodyne or Vocaline, whatever it is that you've been working with, and underneath that you'll find an orange render button. If you click on that orange render button, it will render all of what you've done in Melodyne or Vocaline to the audio event, and it will unload Melodyne or Vocaline. And the orange render button then turns into a blue restore button. This is cool because this means, if necessary, if you go, actually, yes, I've gone and I've done my tuning, but that note there in bar 74 in the third chorus still sounds a little bit flat to me. Well, you can go back to the track inspector, the event inspector rather, and you can press that restore button. And when you press that restore button, instead of the audio editor opening up, the Melodyne editor will the Melodyne editor will open up, and now you can go to that particular note and you can check if it's what you think. Maybe it is actually still a little bit flat. Maybe it's a note that you missed out when you're doing your edits. Great. We can correct that now. So you correct that note, and then you re-render. Job done. So that's why you have the render and restore on event effects in the inspector. That's what that's there for. So do that rather than doing Command or Control B to bounce. Okay? Because you will find that workflow is better than doing Command or Control B. Yes, you can do edit, undo, and all of that, but use the track inspector. It's just a lot easier. And it makes things a lot less messy and confusing. That's why that was added. These are all fantastic questions, folks. I'm going to go check and see if I've got any new emails, which I don't. That's okay. All right, so we have 18 people here. We got 12 likes though. Yeah, I like to have viewer and like parity. That's kind of what I like to see. I like to see, you know, I'm not going to force you to like it. If you don't like what I'm doing, then don't hit the like button. It's fine. It's okay. I don't mind. But, you know, if you're finding that these answers that I'm giving are useful and helpful and informative and instructive, please hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. It makes this show a lot more visible to a lot more people going forward. And wouldn't it be great if we have, you know, 50 people watching or 100 people watching instead of, you know, 18, 19, 20? It'd be great to have loads more people watching. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Okay. So if you guys don't know what the audio batch converter is, I can show you what that is. Okay, so this is the audio batch converter. And as you can see, it looks nothing like what you see in Studio One. Currently, Studio One is hiding behind this GUI, and it's available by clicking this button here. Now, you'll find that you don't have this, is it this one here? No, you do have, I've got a missing script, which is a personal script of mine. The Hangman script. I think I've shown you the Hangman script before. It is not in Studio One because I forgot to re-add it after the last update. Anyway, this is what this looks like. Now, I have a file in here at the moment. If I click on it and it highlights blue, you can see at the bottom here, we have the waveform for that file, and we can play it and we can loop it. We can do whatever we want here. But we've also got some processes that we can apply to it. At the moment, it is wave file 44.1. I want to change this to 48, but I want to keep it stereo. But let's say I also want to do something else to it. Maybe I want to repair it. Maybe I want to merge some mono files. If I've got like a piano left and a piano right and I want to merge them into a stereo file, I can do that here. I can join files, I can extract sections, I can split multi-channel files. If I've got, let's say I've got a multi-track broadcast file and I want to split them all out into individual files, you can do that here. You can just apply this little process here. Then we've got some repair. So we've got declicker, invert phase, remove DC offset, repair sample rate. And then we've got some volume, and then we've got access to all of our effects. There's the PreSonus ones there. And then there's some VST2s, and then there's VST3s, which are these ones here. So for restoration, I've got RX7, which is ancient. But for me, I think it works pretty well. So let's say we wanted to do a little bit of limiting. We've got some limiting plugins here. We've got the Pro L2, and we can just drag and drop that into the process right here. Let's say we just want to, we want to use just the limiter. We can just drag and drop that on here. Limiter appears. And let's say that's how we want it to go. We can then go, okay, we're happy with everything. And then we just click process, select a valid output location. And let's say I want to put this on desktop. So now that I've selected an output location, I can just hit process. And there it is done. And the file is going to be over on the desktop. So let's see if we can go find that. Gregor's Vamp. And there's the resultant file. So there's the original. It's a little bit quieter. And here's the resultant file. All right. And that's the audio batch converter. Very, very cool. Very, very powerful. So in John's case, John can just like add whatever he needs from his songs here, and he can run the whole lot through a limiter or a gain control, whatever you might want to do. And then you can set all your file types and everything that you need here, and then you can set the destination and then hit process. It's as simple as that, guys. And there's this little checkbox as well, so you can check what the LUFS is, and you can see here that the LUFS has gone from -16 to -11, and true peak of 0.8. There you go. That's all there is to it, guys. So that is the audio batch converter. It's very cool. I hope that helps. Sorry, I'm slightly distracted. Okay, there we go. So we are pretty much at the end of the show. We've got like 6 minutes left. We got 16 people left watching, and we got 12 likes now. John Hathwaite says, can we get a really like button or a love button? I would like a love button. John says, I'd have never thought about the ABC. I'll try that tomorrow. Yeah, Dwayne's suggestion of the ABC was a really good one. Absolutely. To be fair, I had not really thought of that either as an option, but certainly I think that would work for you, John, using the ABC. For sure. Not everybody is going to have the ABC. I got it several years ago, actually. But the cool thing about the ABC, the audio batch converter, is that it works whether you're on Studio One Artist or Studio One Professional. And in fact, it works if you're in Studio One Prime as well. Because there are some people that only want the audio batch converter. So in order for the audio batch converter to work, it has to work inside of Studio One, because it's essentially Studio One. It's just a separate GUI, but it's essentially still working inside of Studio One. Which is why you can just, you can have the free version. You can have Prime, Studio One Prime, and buy the audio batch converter, and it will work. You'll have the little audio batch converter button at the top of your Studio One. Billy has posted the after show Zoom, which is cool. It's Memorial Day tomorrow. So just so you know, folks, the PreSonus US office is closed, so there will be no sales, no gear advisory team, and no tech support agents, and no web team at all. Anyone that's in the USA working for PreSonus, either directly in the PreSonus HQ in Baton Rouge or remotely, they will be off for the day, and PreSonus US is essentially closed. The Scotland office, which is this room here, is also closed because it's a public holiday. Coincidentally, it's not because of Memorial Day. We don't do Memorial Day. We have a separate day for that, which is November the 11th, which we call Remembrance Day. And why is it November the 11th? It's because at the end of the First World War, the armistice came into effect at the 11th hour on the 11th day of November 1918. And so that is when we have our version of Memorial Day, which is Remembrance Day. And we also then have remembrance services on the nearest Sunday to November the 11th. So if November the 11th falls on a Sunday, then there are remembrance services on Remembrance Day itself. But otherwise, if November the 11th does not fall on a Sunday, then Remembrance Sunday is on the nearest Sunday to that day. I don't know if it works in a similar way with Memorial Day in the United States, or whether it's just a fixed particular Sunday. I'm not fixed particular Monday, I should say. I'm not 100% sure. But yes, that's our version of it. But yes, it just so happens that Monday is a public holiday in Scotland. So, and I think it's in England as well. So yes, I will not be working. I will be, probably on a sofa, wrapped in a blanket, chilling out, watching DVDs with, and my kids will be at school, however, because the Midlothian region of Scotland, the kids don't get this particular public holiday off. They are still in school. So I will be on my lonesome all day tomorrow. However, I will have my Discord server open tomorrow, so if you guys want to come and just join to hang out, please do come and find me on Discord. Just do a search for Jonny Lipsham Studios in Discord, and you'll find my Discord server. It's absolutely free to join, and it'd be great to maybe see some of you pop in and out during the day tomorrow. With that, folks, we are at the end of the show. Billy Morgan has set up an after show Zoom party, so if you would like to come and join us there, then please do. Thanks ever so much, everybody, for your questions. I really appreciate it. They were really, really great questions this week. Thank you very much. We'll be back on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified, so if you have songwriting questions, arranging questions, lyric writing questions, music theory questions, questions about harmony, chords, writing for strings, horns, choir, backing vocals, whatever questions to do with that you have, then please do get them on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Central, same time, same channel, just on a Wednesday. So if you don't want to miss out on that, then please make sure you have hit the subscribe button. You'll get and then select all notifications. That way you don't miss out on a notification for Wednesday's show and also any other videos that I put out, because I've got a raft of new videos coming this year, and I am ramping up production of tutorials this year, because I've kind of not really been doing very many tutorials of late because I've just been way too busy. But I am planning on addressing that and getting some more tutorial videos out there, standalone videos. So if you want those, be subscribed, have the notification bell enabled, and until then, I'll see you all on Wednesday. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.